Ladies and gentlemen, how the heck are you doing today? I'm Ryan the Ride Mechanic. Welcome to the Ryan the Ride Mechanic channel. I am glad to have you here. Today's been a pretty hectic day. Everyone's been getting on YouTube and asking me on comments. They've been saying, hey, tell us about this whole Six Flags Cedar Fair thing. What's your thoughts? What's your point of view on this whole... Really? That's how we're going to play it? Come on, that's not fair. Oh, yay, we got one. Yay! We could talk about it now. Let's get into it.
Now get ready. Here we go.
First, as usual, thank you for coming back and thank you for watching another video. I appreciate it. This week's video kind of came up suddenly, so apologize. It's not going to be the normal this is how roller coasters work type video. We're going to be talking about the recent merger between Six Flags and Cedar Fair. Kind of saw this coming down the pipeline. Things have been out there for a very long time. I have had friends in the companies that say, oh yeah, now if we go to the other park, all we have to do is bring our paycheck stub, and then that basically gets them into the other park as like an interim step. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So you get into both sides for free. That's pretty nifty. So I wanted to talk about this huge, like, we're going to take Six Flags and we're going to take Cedar Fair. We're going to merge them and it's going to be big explosion. Lots of graphics everywhere. We could edit them in later or not. Maybe we won't. I'm not sure. Either way, it's going to be big. It's going to be amazing. Bring your grandma. So what's going on? It's like, okay. In case you haven't heard already, which I'm pretty sure you have if you're watching my channel, because the last source of information here, Six Flags and Cedar Fair have decided to merge. They put their heads together and said, hey, realistically, Cedar Fair is probably going to go out of business at the rate they're going. But at the same token, Six Flags is probably going to go out of business at the rate they're going. So if they merge, they can, instead of fighting against each other and spending all that money, they could work together, right? It's a happy partnership made in funnel cake heaven. It's amazing. So they put their heads together and they said, okay, they said, so let's see, Cedar Fair, they're worth, let's see, in 2022, Cedar Fair made $1.82 billion revenue. Same token, 2022, Six Flags made $1.36 billion total revenue. All right, so together, and this isn't anything special, right? These facts are all over the place. I'm just getting them in one spot, right? So together, they're worth a total of $8 billion combined. Cedar Fair brought 11 parks and 4 water parks to the table. Six Flags brought 27 parks and 15 water parks to the table. Obviously, Six Flags is much bigger in that aspect. To put that into perspective, right, you combine those, let's see, 1.8 and 1.36, 1.8, 1.4, so what is that, 3.2 billion dollars of revenue in 2022, put that together, and I understand the earnings call came out and they said, oh, we made $4 billion this year. It's like, okay, yeah, it always looks better the next year around, but 2022 was kind of a rough year, still recovering from the COVID downfall and everything else. So, yeah, granted, I expect 2023s to be much better. Earning calls are still out there. I believe they were just released a little bit ago. But, so put that in perspective. They're up against now. So let's see. You have Cedar Fair, Six Flags. Who else is out there? And by who else, I'm mainly talking, I'm mainly talking North America here, because there's a lot of smaller companies out there, but none that can really hold a candle to it. Most of these smaller companies can't even hold a candle to Six Flags by themselves or Cedar Fair by themselves, so kind of out of running altogether. So you're going to get this big conglomeration between the two after they go together, and they're going to go up against Universal, which is pulling in, let's see, the revenue from them was $7.5 billion. So now we got basically $4 billion up against 7.5. Not too bad, but then both of those fail in comparison to Disney. Disney parks last year, the parks, apparently, revenued $29 billion. I know they got a lot of my money, that's for sure. A lot of my money went there. So I was getting online, I was looking at stuff. I'm like, well, what does this actually mean? Because I'm probably doing the same thing. I'm reading through the same things you are. I'm out there. There's everything open out there. You open up the internet anywhere and you could just find it. Just start typing it in. It comes right up. It's like, okay, so what you go to, there's like stuff on TikTok. It's like I go to TikTok and I don't have TikTok. But nonetheless, go to Instagram and I don't have Instagram either. That's fine. I don't have Facebook either. But I mean, it's on everything. You could search it. Google search gives you all the opportunities, right? Google comes up, it pops up with like Six Flags, Cedar Fair, all this stuff. And then it goes down. It's like even Pornhub pulls up for this. It's so funny. And so after researching for a while on various things, after that Pornhub result, let's see. What was I doing after that? I don't remember. I just know I have to get all this information together for Thursday morning. It's Friday. Man, what have I been doing? What's my search? So in doing some of the basic research, I look in and find the basics, right? Okay, so are people losing jobs? Are people keeping jobs? What's going on? The two companies merging together, it doesn't look like they're going to be going through and cleaning a lot of house. Now, for those who don't know, Six Flags over the last handful of years has actually been in the process of gutting their entire upper management, engineering, like everybody. They've been gutting the entire top into their structure and making it run pretty lean. So it used to be each park had a, what would you call it, a general park manager, and there was no real defined like East Coast, West Coast area supervisors, managers, directors, whatever you want to call it over that. And now they are into that. Like none of the parks have a manager, but now there's like a West Coast director. There's like an East Coast director. So they've already been in the process of restructuring that. Typically with these sorts of mergers, you're not really going to see much of anything happen at the park level. I'm not even sure at this point. Maybe somebody can tell me. Did they even announce would the names change? I don't even think the names would change, because this is one of those things that they're going to be companies working together with each other. They're not necessarily going to be like once it wouldn't really take over. Nothing really took over here. They just combined. So I'm pretty sure you're still probably going to see Cedar Fair parks operate as Cedar Fair parks and Six Flags parks operate as Six Flags parks, but we, the guests, are going to benefit from it because we're going to start seeing extra perks in the season pass area. I don't know anything special here. This is nothing like I got behind the scenes footage, nothing like that. We're probably going to see your pass is now available at all these other parks out there to some extent. There's always the what's your home park versus visiting park, operating schedules, that sort of stuff. Because of that, it's like probably guessing your season pass price is going to increase due to all the new places you can go. Because even if you live close to a Cedar Fair park or a Six Flags park, you probably have the opposite also not that far away either. So that's probably going to see something. You're going to see an increase in some pricing there. For sure, parking is going to go up. Why? Because parking goes up every year regardless. Just like taxes. It always goes up. Your parking always goes up. You got to pay more to park your car every time. Pretty soon you'll be up at Disney prices at like $40 a car or whatever it is now. It's completely ridiculous, that's for sure. So will anything suffer inside the parks? Will we see extra rides torn out, extra rides installed? Not really. Not really, because you're going to have the same operating budgets, the same 5 to 10 year plans that both companies had. Everything is still an action plan in motion. Just because they merge doesn't mean they're going to make a complete left-hand turn. And again, all this is just what's in my head, right? No one's telling me this. I don't have any extra insight to anything else. It's just kind of what's in my head at the time. But no one's going to stop the plan, the motion they were going, right? If Cedar Point, if they have a massive ride in the wings waiting for a 2025 capital project, they're not suddenly going to cancel that, nor are they going to turn it around and try to push it through to this year. Not going to happen. Same thing with Six Flags. If you have a big project waiting at a park, whether it's to install something major or take out something major, they're probably not going to push it ahead, and it's not really going to change their current trajectory of what they're doing. Things are going to kind of stay status quo. One thing that would be interesting to see is from this channel, right, is the engineering. It will be interesting to see if the engineering changes at all. Now, what do I mean by engineering changes? So Six Flags and Cedar Fair both have their own engineering departments that they oversee the rides for all the parks. When something needs to happen to a ride, they're typically the first ones that are consulted. I know Six Flags has been lightening their engineering up. They've been doing some stuff like that. Cedar Fair, I'm not too sure of. I don't hear too much about it on their end. One thing I do know is that both companies will use external engineers from time to time. So they'll use external firms and things like that to get third-party opinion on projects and safety ratings and stuff like that. But with engineering comes all of your safety protocol. So are the parks going to have different safety plans in place? Where at Cedar Fair, it might have been perfectly fine for operations to go out and transfer rides. Perfectly fine. Like, that's built in their procedures and everything. But once Six Flags gets a hold of it, they're like, we really don't think that's safe, and we want them to stop doing that. It could work vice versa, too. You could have parks at Six Flags that are like, only maintenance does that, and Cedar Fair says, look, we have all this history that says this is perfectly fine for operations to do. Okay. You know what typically comes out ahead in that is your downtime. Your downtime actually reduces if you can get parks to come to a happy medium in those areas, because it's typically when engineering and operations fight between the two, that's typically when the ride's throughput slows down. That's when there's no happy medium at there. That's when they start coming up with all sorts of safe but kind of way off of left field procedures that we got to go through and do all these extracurricular crazy checks every single day, when the ride manufacturer said nothing about it. Nobody said anything about it, but we just have people sitting there going, yeah, we should do all this stuff every single day. And next thing you know, the inspection for the ride takes 12 hours to do for 7 hours of operation. Weird stuff like that. But the flip side of that coin is that, of course, it can also go the other way, and we could actually create problems, which I'm sure they'll have a lot of people staring at those situations. But realistically, for the time being, for the first, I'd say at least first 3 years, you're probably not going to see much of a change to anything. So this is a pretty interesting experience just to think about, though. I mean, when you think about this in general, in North America, what's really left? I mean, you have Disney and Universal, which are up there, in my opinion, towards the top. And then now that Six Flags and Cedar Fair have merged, what's really left out there? There's not much. There's a couple of smaller mom and pop companies around that don't really have much weight to pull. So who's really fighting out there for your amusement dollar? Disney's fighting for it, Universal's fighting for it, and now this conglomeration will call what? Six Flags? Cedar Flags? See, Cedar Flags, that sounds like there's a lot of wood involved. Cedar Flags, yeah. Sounds like something you find at a craft fair, huh? We have cedar flags for sale over here. Come get your cedar flags. But Six Fairs, on the other hand, that sounds like a traveling circus, doesn't it? Six Fairs? We went out to Six Fairs today. That just doesn't sound right at all. That sounds like a carnival place. No one wants to do that. So they are now going to be swinging with a combined 38 amusement parks and 19 water parks. That is a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot to keep running. Luckily, they all have their own independent intake revenue stream. So that's one thing Cedar Fair is going to benefit from, is they're getting on the bandwagon to have Falcon's Flight, the world's first Intamin super coaster. That's, I don't know what was that thing, like 600 feet tall or something like that. They're getting in on the ground floor of that, so that's good for them. I'm sure some of the capital money from Cedar Fair is probably going to be going to fund that roller coaster. It's kind of interesting. That's one of the only things I looked at, when it comes to like, capital projects and this and that. Like that Falcon's Flight was announced like 4 years ago. And that's been the only thing I've ever looked at on engineers and artists rendering and things like that. And I looked at it and I'm like, I don't think that's going to work. Like, I don't even know how that's going to work. It's like, yeah, we're going to have these huge sustained speeds. It's like, what road wheels are you going to keep on that thing for that type of speed? I mean, so when they opened up Superman The Escape at Magic Mountain, right? It was the first roller coaster, I think, first launch roller coaster to get up to 100 miles per hour. So it was very short, right? It accelerated that 100 miles per hour, went up the spike, and then drifted back down. Well, part of that was Intamin had to deal with the fact that the thing was going to go 100 miles per hour and put all the heat into the road wheels. So they had to adjust the road wheels appropriately for that type of speed. So that's one of the reasons why those road wheels, if you look at the side of those trains or those coaches, those road wheels are absolutely huge. They're almost 3 feet in diameter. They're so big like that because when you increase the size of the wheel like that, you slow the bearing speed down. And now the bearings can handle that higher speed easier. But you can't really put wheels that big on a roller coaster. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but if you're constantly going to be dropping a roller coaster down and getting up to, I don't know what speed that thing is supposed to go, but like, 130, 140 miles an hour, whatever it's supposed to be, I see it doing nothing but just blowing wheels apart constantly, valleying. Probably going to have to line the thing with stators all over the place to keep the thing up to speed. I mean, you're talking about a ride that big, a gust of wind would be detrimental, because it's not the fact that it would be going into the wind, or that gust of wind at the time, it's the fact that it'd be doing it for so long. Just the ride is so big. I don't know. I don't know. I still don't know how that thing's going to work. It'll be exciting to see it when it does work, but I don't know. Kind of worried about that sort of thing. And that's quite an investment, too. That has to be probably, the cost of 4 or 5 roller coasters put together? Easy. But I digress. So I do believe this is going to be a good thing. I believe both sides are going to benefit from this. And it's going to be exciting to see what comes out in the future, because there's going to be a lot more openness there. I remember it was always between Cedar Point and Magic Mountain. We're always trying to one-up each other with having the most roller coasters. Cedar Point installed 18, Magic installed 19. Cedar Point installed 19, Magic did 20, and then Cedar Point did 21. Just that constant back and forth between, well, now that they're no longer really rivals, they don't have to fight with each other anymore because the money is still going to the company, right? Your money is still going to the company in there, so they don't have to fight to get people in between Six Flags season passes and Cedar Fair season passes, because now it's all one thing. The parks still have to compete with themselves to get guests in. You can't just say, well, we're part of a bigger company, now guests don't have to come in the park. Nope, you still need guests to come in. So you will still have local price battling and things like that to keep guests coming in the front gate. And they will still have plenty of large capital installs and expenditures to keep those new guests traveling, because you want to do that no matter where you are. Every park wants something that people will travel to their park. They want something that, oh yeah, we came from 3 states over to visit this park and see this. And it's like what Cedar Fair did with Top Thrills, right? They didn't want to get rid of it completely because they still felt it was useful, so they upgraded it to a more reliable launch system. And then, well, what do we do? Like, this is kind of like it's been done before, Red Force and stuff like that. So I was like, well, what do we do to make this one unique and stand out? It's like, oh, we're going to give it a spike on the back tower so you can seesaw now 3 swings. Right, 3 swings, right? 1, 2, 3, up and over. And for some people, that's a big, like, hey, that's going to be amazing. I would have been fine with that if that ride took up half the footprint that it does now. If they said, we're going to have 3 swings on this thing, it's like, that's great. I want that station now to be halfway to that front tower, and I want that rear tower to be right behind the station. And I want that burst of acceleration to be pretty hard. But as long as that thing is now, it's kind of like, it's going to be like a driving Miss Daisy acceleration, in my opinion. But it will get a lot of people in through that front gate, and it will get a lot of people still generating buzz and wanting to go ride it. I know one of the questions that always comes up, people like, is that going to be a new coaster credit? Is it? Is it not? I don't know. I don't do the coaster credit thing. I've ridden on a lot of roller coasters. I don't keep track of what I've done. Sometimes I watch stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, I did ride on that thing. I can't. We were talking about, like TV stuff that happens. And my son was showing me his clip. I was like, oh yeah, here's this TV show that came in and filmed this roller coaster. And I was like, oh yeah, they do that. Every time you have to have maintenance sign off that camera is mounted to the train. And he's like, did you ever help with that stuff? And I'm like, there was like 6 TV shows that came through. And I think they talked with me on like 3 of them. But I never found out if they aired or not. I don't even know if those ever even made it on, or where they talked with me. I don't even know if those made it on TV. But I mean, every one of them. One of my favorite ones was this camera crew came in. They were filming on our wooden roller coaster at the time. And we set up this like static GoPro. I know I'm way off subject now, but whatever. we set up the static GoPro type camera on the front seat of the train. And we sent the train around. And it comes back and all we see is the stand sticking up. It was kind of looked like a tripod type stand that we had all clamped in there. And all you see is the stand come back. And it's just like, oh no, where'd the camera go? And I'm just like, oh man, we're going to have to go through the infield. And on a wooden roller coaster, that's a nightmare because there are so many footers and everything else. But I'm like, we're going to be out there for hours searching for this little tiny camera that fell off this thing somewhere. And I'm just like, oh man. So it came back in the station. We looked at it, and the camera was in the floor pan of the coach. So what had happened was that while it was running around, the camera, because it was a screw-in mount from the bottom, the camera just started unscrewing as it was on the ride. And I was just like, oh man, please use that footage. That would just be the funniest thing ever, to see this roller coaster while the camera's spinning 360 degrees really fast, and then it suddenly falls into the floor pan. I thought that'd be funny. They didn't use it though, but I wanted them to. I'm like, oh, come on, please. But we had fun with that. I also took the camera guy to an area where we're like, we got really close. He says you're willing to be really close to the track of our impulse coaster. And I was like, okay. And so they say, take him down there and set him up. And they set him up right down there. I said, okay, the train's going to go right over us at this point in time. And he says, we're safe here. And I'm like, yeah, we're safe here. He says, okay. And we're like, are you ready? He's like, yeah, I'm ready. And in the meantime, like, I'm like, yeah, we're safe here. This is good. But at the same time, I'm still like, yeah, we're good. We're fine. Send it. And we sent the train, and I heard that camera guy cuss so much because the train came really close to us. Of course, if you've ever stood or been anywhere like that, it seems like it's like right on top of you when it's actually a long ways away from you, just because of the sheer energy and mass that's going by. But that guy, I'm sure, had an uneasy feeling in his stomach after that. He was cussing up a storm at the end of that. Okay, sorry about that. I'm way too far off subject. But that was it. Those are my thoughts, my halfway thoughts for this subject. I hope you've enjoyed this. I got a couple extra little bonus things there at the end. Listening to me ramble. I'm Ryan the Ride Mechanic. If you want to, please subscribe. It helps me out. Like the video, share with people, whatever you want to do. If you don't want to, don't worry about it. You'll probably see me again in the future. I'm Ryan the Ride Mechanic, and remember, stay off the air gates. Bye.